Good afternoon, everyone. So, today we will let me know if I'm audible. I think I should be.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, now audible.
Thank you. Okay. So, today we will be discussing interviews and dialogues, like I said, and then we'll be going into the suggested reading of the last chapter that we had. But that, like I had said previously, that this is a suggested reading. So, it is for you to cover. I will just discuss like the important points from it. Uh, After we discuss interview and dialogue, we will have covered the whole syllabus. Uh, and then last class, which is the class you have on Friday, we will be doing the revision of the whole syllabus along with some doubts that some people have asked me to explain again, like the FIR and the chapter on Amal Kanti. So we will be discussing those in the next class. Okay, so for now, we will begin discussing interviews. Uh, I This is a topic that we covered in the first class itself, like not the first class, but the first unit itself, maybe the second class. And I have already told you what it is. The only reason that we are redoing this is A, because we did it so early, and B, because interview is something that comes for your exam, and I just wanted to not just revise but give you a little more detail about it. So we will discuss the three points that you can see on the PPT. We will discuss what is an interview, what are the different kinds of interview, and the key points we should remember while conducting an interview. This is mainly what we will cover. It's not very complicated, and like I said, we have already discussed it previously, but we'll just be revising it of sorts. So, what is an interview? We know that all of us have been through interviews at some point in our life as students, as someone going into any profession. We have all appeared for some interview or the other. Even a kid, when a baby is going into preschool, they also have an interview. Obviously the experience is very different from the interview that you have as an adult, but everybody has gone for interviews. Now, what is an interview? Interviews are formal meetings where someone asks you questions and you answer those questions so that the person asking you can find out more about you. So it's just a question answer process only, but done with a very different approach or for a very different motive. And the motive is that if you are giving an interview for a school, then it would be like you're giving an interview to get admitted in a school, then the person interviewing you is going to try to find out more about you. Same for a job. But obviously, these are not the only type of interviews. This is why we need to know the different kinds of interviews there are. So there are there are various kinds of interviews. The first is the first one, as you can see, is when you apply for a job or admission into an academic institution. So you face an interview where the principal the principal takes your interview in case of school, or where in a college you have, say, there could be two three people taking that interview, the principal, the HOD of the department that you have applied to, and uh, and so on and so forth. Or for a job. Now, in a job interview, you might already know that there's usually like a panel of people, three, four people at least, who sit and conduct an interview. They try to know whether you are suitable for that job, whether you fit the profile that they are looking for. Uh, and they look at your CV and they just then ask you questions so that they know whether you fit the profile that they require to fulfill the job. So this is the basic format of the interview that actually matters to us, or it's an experience that we all have undergone. But there are also different kinds of interviews besides these job and admission interviews. What are they? One is the journalist interviews that we had talked about, right? So sometimes journalists will interview politicians and famous personalities, and then those interviews are published in the newspaper, or you see articles about it. It's on Facebook, it's everywhere. Now, why do they do this? They do this either to discuss certain issues with these famous personalities, or for promotional events, or because the famous personality or the politician has recently achieved some award, or has been involved in uh, something interesting, important, uh, that has gained a lot of public interest, etc. So for all these reasons, a journalist can want to take the interview of uh, like journalists could be asked to take the interview of like a famous personality or a politician. Now the third kind of interview, now the journalist interview is just not these politicians and famous personalities, right? A journalist interview can also be, uh, say there is an on like there is an accident, and you know that when there's a big accident or something that happens, local newspapers usually go to the spot to cover that story, right? So when the journalist goes over there, obviously the police ask questions to the public, but even the journalist can ask questions to the public. Like, what did you see happened here? Could you give an account? Like, when you look at the newspaper and you see, if for a lot of incidents, uh, for example, say the road is bad in front of your house, and maybe a manhole opened and someone fell into the manhole. So this was an accident, and इसके लिए crowd gathered and the police came, and obviously ambulance वगैरह तो आया, obviously आया ही था, and then even the local newspaper came because oh my god, this is like such a big issue, like someone called the local newspaper. Now the local newspaper will also come and ask people, like, how many days has it been that you complained about this manhole? Has the municipal not taken any action, etc., etc.? So these questions are questions that will come up, like that the journalist will ask the public to establish their story, to make their story so that they can print it in the paper the next day and can spread awareness and people can read the news. So this is the other kind of journalist interviews, where journalists on spot interview the public, take quotes from them, and make their story. So you have one as the job and the academic interview, two as the journalist interviews, which also has two subheadings. We did note making last class, so you can actually understand what I'm saying. Which is, one is the journalist interviews of famous personalities and politicians and actors, etc. And the second one is when the journalist interviews the public to get a story. So these, and then there's the third kind, which is a police interview, or like more of an interrogation, where the police is trying to find out about a crime. So these are the main three types of interviews that exist. Now for our requirement, obviously, the questions for your personal growth and requirement, the interviews that you require at this moment is to know how to appear for a job interview. But for your exam purpose, you are usually given a question where you have to write the interview of the topic that is given to you. In your case, you will obviously not have the questions given to you for which you have to write answers. You have to play the role of both the interviewer and the interviewee. मतलब जो interview ले रहा है and जो interview दे रहा है. So you have to play the role of both these characters and you have to write the whole interview. So for your exams, the interviews that usually come, it is not mandatory कि यही आएगा, but what usually come is where you have to pretend to be a journalist or someone that is mentioned, and you have to take an interview of another person, like a famous personality or something of that sort. So that is the one that comes for your exams. So now, what is the general format of an interview? The general format should always be you introduce the person you are interviewing, because सबको पता शायद नहीं भी हो सकता है that who this person is. Randomly आप किसी के interview अगर ले रहे हो, so the person has to know that like your readers, आप जब interview publish करोगे, your readers should know whom are you interviewing. So a general introduction of the person being interviewed uh, is uh, is very helpful. Then obviously you start with your questions, and the interviewee or jiska aap le rahe ho, that person will give the answer. But like I said, in your exam you play the role of both. So you will be asking the questions as well as you will be giving the answers. Now you will start with trying to know the person, you will ask about the interesting details about the person. But always remember you are taking the interview for a particular purpose, right? Like you have a motive behind taking this interview. There is a topic why you are interviewing this person. आप किसी random किसी को तो वैसे interview नहीं करने वाले हो. तो अगर आप एक celebrity को interview कर रहे हो जैसे some famous actor, then the whole idea will be either their new film is coming out or they have recently won an award or they have done something like how say how Sonu Sood has been helping has been so helpful of such a resourceful person during the pandemic. So something like there has to be a topic that you want to discuss with this person, and that is the reason why you want to take the interview of this person. So first, after trying to know the person and mentioning the interesting details, you will come to the main topic of the interview for the reason why you're interviewing this person. And then finally you will ask them the closing questions, like to tell you about their journey, to tell you how they are here today, what they would like their readers to know, etc., etc. So this is how you can make an interview when it comes to the ones that you get in your exam. Now as for appearing for an interview, or as for how you're supposed to conduct yourself in an interview, you already know there should be manners, the way you communicate, the way you reply, your body language, your eye contact, and all of these matters obviously get into play a major role when it comes to you appearing for an interview. So yeah, this is what I had to generally discuss about the interview. Now we'll just see uh, one of the questions that came for you. 1 minute. Yeah, so you can see that one of the questions that came for you. You're the editor of your college magazine. Interview the Indian economist who won the Nobel Prize in economics. Write at least 10 turns. By 10 turns, they mean ask at least 10 questions, and 10 you will, like, obviously, like I said, you will play the role of the editor of your college and as well as the Indian economist who won the Nobel Prize. So, and they asked you to write 10 turns, which means that 10 questions and 10 answers. So you can see what you're expected to do. You are expected to pretend like you are the editor of your college magazine. And as the editor of your college magazine, you are going to interview the Indian economist who won the Nobel Prize in economics. So you can see you will start with asking about, uh, by introducing them, like who they are as a person, like whose interview are you taking. Then you will ask them about some interesting facts about themselves. Then you will get into the main topic. The main topic here is that this person has won the Nobel Prize in economics. So you will discuss like which work made him get this prize, uh, like who has helped him, what contributed to him coming up with this theory or hypothesis. Then at the end you will end with a talking about how did they get their interest in economics, how has their journey been so far, what they would like to tell their readers, etc. So you can see that these are the types of questions that actually come for your exam. Okay, now the second topic that we are going to discuss today is dialogue writing, which again is something that I've already covered. But like I said, it's like a quick revision because we had done it so early on in like we had done it over a month and a half ago now. So I just thought it would just be a good revision and I could cover it in a little more detail. So you already know what a dialogue is, which is something that 1 minute. Yeah, you already know what a dialogue is, and yeah, you already know what a dialogue is, and you have all heard dialogues, you've all seen movies, you've all seen plays. Dialogue is just a conversation between two people. That is the idea of a dialogue. Uh, like a monologue is when you're speaking alone, and a dialogue is when you're speaking to another person. Now, obviously, there is a gradual progression of a dialogue, which means that every conversation is a dialogue between two people. जैसे यहाँ पे there is no dialogue क्योंकि you guys are not talking, only I am talking. So ये तो is not a dialogue. बट आप जो मूवीज में सुनते हो, नॉर्मल जो कॉन्वर्सेशंस होते हैं आपके और आपके फ्रेंड्स के बीच में, ऑल दीज आर डायलॉग्स ओनली. So the idea behind like again there is nothing much to teach per se in writing a dialogue, but the things that you have to keep in mind is one, do not use short forms when you're writing a dialogue. ये सच में टेक्स्ट मैसेजेस नहीं है, तो आपको फुल फॉर्म्स ही लिखना पड़ेगा, जैसे फुल वर्ड्स लिखना पड़ेगा करेक्ट स्पेलिंग और ग्रामर के साथ. आप जैसे व्हाट्सएप पे लिखते हैं आप वैसे लिख नहीं सकते एग्जाम पे. That's number one. Number two is that please follow the question. ऐसे हाय हेलो बोल के ज्यादा डायलॉग आप नहीं, like that is not going to be counted. जैसे हाय हाय हाउ आर यू ऐसे नहीं होता है. You will obviously ask these questions, ये important है क्योंकि ऐसे ही conversations begin होते हैं, पर you will also टॉक अबाउट द कॉन्टेक्स्ट और किस वजह से आप लोग ये डायलॉग कर रहे हैं. दैट विल बी मेंशन्ड इन द क्वेश्चन पेपर, राइट? कि राइट अ डायलॉग with a friend, like write a dialogue between you and your friend discussing this topic. So come to the context, write it as a conversation, अच्छे तरह से communicate the whole context of the dialogue या फिर जो question है that discuss करो. इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी कि डायलॉग में लास्ट में अग्रीमेंट हो कि आप जो बोल रहे हो आपके फ्रेंड भी बोल रहे हैं हाँ ये सच है, या फिर जो आपके फ्रेंड बोल रहे हैं आप उससे अग्री करो. इवन इफ यू गाइज डोंट अग्री, ट्राई टू मेक इट कॉर्डियल, विच मीन्स कि ऐसे नहीं कि झगड़ा हो गया है या फिर आप रूड चीजें लिख रहे हो. You can like agree to disagree and end a dialogue. So, but always remember the most important factor when it comes to dialogue writing is that ऐसे ना हो कि एक ही person बोल ही जा रहे हैं and the other person is like हाँ सच, yes right, yes you are right. ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए. The conversation bit should be between two people और ये proper होना चाहिए. Like I said, जैसे interview की तरह even in dialogue आप ही दोनों कैरेक्टर्स प्ले करने वाले हो. ऐसे नहीं कि यू विल गेट टू लाइक और कोई दूसरे पर्सन का डायलॉग लिखे. So you only have to play both the characters and you only have to write the whole dialogue on your own. So make sure that it is divided properly, the content of the dialogue or the content of the discussion, and दोनों ही turns में बात कर रहे हैं. Make sure about this. And obviously make sure that the communication is clear, like I said, because the whole point of having conversations or having dialogues is to have clarity in communication. So communication ठीक होना चाहिए. So yeah, and try to come to a conclusion. ऐसे ना हो कि आपके डायलॉग खत्म नहीं हो रहे, बहुत abruptly बहुत बड़ा हो गया इसीलिए ये जैसे भाई, ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए. Try to come to a logical conclusion. So yeah, so this is what I had to discuss even when it comes to dialogue. Now, do you guys have any question? Okay, let's just see a dialogue writing that was given to you for your exam. And then if you guys have any questions, barely anybody is attending today's class, so I really doubt there will be questions, but let us just see what question comes. Okay, a patient goes to the medical shop with fever. The pharmacist tells the patient to consult a doctor and warns him or her against the dangers of self-medication. Write a dialogue with 5 sets of exchange between the two. मतलब 5 sets of exchange, मतलब 5 बार patient भी बोलने वाला है, 5 बार pharmacist भी बोलने वाला है. So you're going to play the role of the patient who has fever as well as the role of the pharmacist और जिससे medicine खरीदने गए हैं ये patient. And this should have 5 like 5 pairs of dialogues. Like I said, 5 times the patient will also speak, 5 times the pharmacist will also speak. So this is, you have to write a dialogue, like an exchange between these two people. So you can see these are the type of questions that come for your exam. Now, if anyone has any doubts on these two topics, okay. Uh, okay. If you have to go, you have to go. I understand. Uh, anyone? There are very few people, like I said, so I'll give you just 2 minutes. If anyone has any questions to ask me regarding these two topics, to ask. Otherwise, we'll just discuss the suggested reading of the last chapter. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions. Okay, I don't think any of you have any questions regarding these. So now we'll just go to the suggested reading of the last chapter that we had started, Priya Shakti, and we'll discuss. So yeah, we had already did the discussion of Priya, this girl, yeah, who is a driver. Now the interesting thing about Priya Shakti, graphic novel Priya Shakti. You by this time you should know what a graphic novel is. We have talked about this many times. Now Priya Shakti, the graphic novel Priya Shakti is a very interesting book. How is that? It uses technology of augmented reality to make the book an interactive experience for the readers. So it is an interactive book. It's not just a book जहाँ पे author is constantly talking and and you are just a passive reader. यहाँ पे the readers have an active role to play. Just 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. यहाँ पे the readers have an active role to play. Now, how is this achieved? This is achieved through through augmented reality. Now, what is augmented reality? Augmented reality is a technology where uh, where the user can like interact, like there are special animation videos etc that pop up, like you know how I don't know if you guys have seen, जैसे जो Spotify playlists होते हैं, I'm sure a lot of you know of Spotify, the music listening app, like the music app. तो Spotify में if you make a playlist and वहाँ पे जो Spotify वाला जो साइन है वो बार कोड के तरह होते हैं, just every playlist can has their own barcode. तो बहुत टाइम क्या होते हैं, जैसे आप अगर किसी के लिए एक प्लेलिस्ट बना रहे हो और वो प्लेलिस्ट आपने केक के ऊपर वो बारकोड ड्रॉ करके डाल दिया, या फिर वो पिक्चर लेके जैसे केक के ऊपर डालते हैं ना, तो फूड व्हाट्स दैट कॉल्ड, द एडिबल पेपर वाला जो फोटोज डाल के केक्स बनाते हैं, तो ऐसे अगर आप किसी के लिए डाल दिया and the person scans it with their phone, the playlist that you have made for them will show up in their Spotify app. So similarly, ऐसे बहुत barcodes वगैरह are there in this graphic novel, Priya Shakti. So that if you scan it through your phone or whatever, you can see videos, special animation, sound effects, etc. So ऐसे through augmented reality, the author makes this whole book or this graphic novel a very interactive experience for the readers reading the book. Okay. Now let us just see what this story is about. So the story has been like over here they have divided the story so that it just becomes easy for analysis. But we are not obviously going to go into the details. Like I said, this is your suggested reading, and this like particularly this is not going to come for the exam, but it is just to give you an idea कि कैसे passages आते हैं, etc. So this particular story, Priya Shakti, like this is a part of a trilogy, as in this is a part of a book series. So in Priya Shakti, the story begins with that Priya Shakti is about this person, this rape survivor Priya, who has a lot of belief, who is a devotee of Parvati, like goddess Parvati. You already know that. So this story, as you can see, begins with Lord Shiva and Parvati in Mount Kailash, like in heaven, and Lord Shiva is meditating, like goes away to meditate, and Parvati is wishing him well. And then the second image, like what a graphic novel is, right? Like the first thing, it's like there's an image and there's a text. It's comic books. So the first image is of this, of Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati, and the second image is of Priya, who we see Priya, this girl on earth, who is praying to Parvati and is asking for help. And she is crying and she's absolutely broken and she doesn't know where to turn. Uh, Now, I'm not going to discuss the comment because, again, this is you should read it, but I'm just going to discuss the story and then we will briefly discuss the comment. Yes, Usha, I can write 2 lines of dialogue for. I'll do it. Uh, okay, should I do it right now or should I just do it after discussing this? Maybe I'll do it after discussing the summary of this. I'll do it. Okay. So Parvati listens to her prayer and she looks like she's obviously a goddess, so she can see everything that has happened to this particular devotee of hers, and she sees everything that has happened. And we learn about Priya's backstory. We are told about this young girl who was very curious about the universe, like most of us are, and she dreams of becoming a teacher and has worked very hard to make her dreams a reality. And as she grew older, uh, uh, her father stopped her from going to school and asked her to stay at home and to take care of the house. Again, something you remember if we had discussed, like we had discussed in the Lost Word, that women are confined or women are kept in the space of domesticity. So goddess Parvati is obviously very upset that this happens. But this is that this happens, and then she goes on to see what other difficulties Priya has faced. uh, Priya, so one day Priya was in the marketplace and she was surrounded by men who were passing bad remarks at her, or lewd remarks. Lewd means like, dirty, cheap remarks at her. They were basically catcalling. One of the men called her a loose girl, and another declares no one will stop us. So you know how women face this so much, even in cities. Even I'm sure a lot of us have gone through experiences that we would rather not talk about or hope that it never happened to us, but it has happened. We have been past comments, we have been randomly catcalled. It's just very very hurtful, and it makes us feel so unsafe and insecure. And then Parvati, now with Priya being in the marketplace and getting these comments, obviously, obviously Parvati can. anticipate, like she's a goddess, even we can as human beings, like there are evil intentions that these men have. And the next image of, like the next image in the comic book, you can see that she gets attacked and she's crying. And ever since the incident that happens, her life just becomes harder every day. Like it's not just the incident of trauma that she has been violated and raped, but it is, but that should be your biggest, that should be like the epitome, or like the pinnacle, or like the peak of the bad thing that has happened to you, right? And then people should understand and people should support you. All you need is support, all you need is love. You need to heal from this very, this very wrong, this very traumatic thing that has happened to you. Except uh, people just made her life harder. She just couldn't get over it. Like as the days passed, uh, when like she just, her life just gets harder, and like she's walking towards the fields and men follow her. She tries to run, but one of the men hit her with a stone, and she recognizes that her attackers are just making her life even harder. Like they are not, they have not let her rest in peace. And then she tells her family that she wants to tell her family that this has happened to her, but and that like that this, that she has been raped by these men. Except in the next scene, like you can see in this picture, uh, her family blame her for bringing shame to the family. And this is something we were discussing the first day we started discussing this chapter. This happens so often that as women who are victims of assault, like sexual assault and rape, they get blamed for what has happened to them. And this is such a common comment that we have heard, that have you seen her clothes? Maybe she was asking for it. uh, she shouldn't have worn what she was wearing. But we all know that it's such a wrong thing to say, because babies get raped, old people get raped, and what have they done to actually provoke people? They have done nothing. They get raped inside their house. So obviously this is such a wrong thing, and even her family does the same when she is trying to tell them that this very scary traumatic incident has happened to her. Her family is just blaming her, and they are just like, you have brought shame to us. And you can see that comic may what is written, you have shamed our family, get out of here and never come back. They are literally throwing her out for something that has happened to her. Instead of being supportive, instead of listening to her, instead of going to the police with her, they throw her out for whatever has happened. So obviously she becomes helpless, and she she is very sad and angry. Uh, like she becomes helpless and she's praying to Parvati. And when Parvati sees this whole thing, she becomes very sad and angry, and is unable to even believe that this person, like Priya, has been even abandoned by her own family. And she decides, like goddess Parvati decides, that she's going to help this devotee of hers. So she incarnates as Priya and goes to seek justice. Now Parvati comes to earth as, like obviously in mythology and in fiction, you all know that gods can take the shape of people they will like sorry, not like, they want whoever they want. So here Parvati takes like takes incarnates as Priya, and she goes to seek justice from the panchayat. And instead of getting justice, now the panchayat. The panchayat is a law, is a body of law, is a is like the village heads. So so they are supposed to bring justice. They are supposed to be fair. But instead of doing that, what they do is they blame and accuse they blame and accuse Priya for bringing this upon herself. Like I was saying, the comments that we usually hear, did you see what she was wearing? Maybe she was asking for it. It is the same way. Even the panchayat, like uh, the law abiding body, the law carrying out body is blames the victim instead of being on her, instead of listening to her and understanding or trying to get her justice. And she gets no justice for her attackers, and she is and and finding one of them, she asks why he did what he did. So she now then goes on to ask her, like, face and confront her own attackers, because and she finds this one man who had attacked her, whom she knew from school. And the man tells her that it is her fault. She shouldn't have worn such loose clothes. The one that I was just saying, the comment that we hear so often, that it is our clothes that provokes these men, and it's absolutely not true. It is not possible. I gave you examples why it is not possible. But she hears this from this man, that you shouldn't have worn such loose clothes. It was your fault that this has happened to you. uh like, this is your fault that this has happened to you. Now now Parvati, but now you have to remember that Parvati is take like she has incarnated herself as Priya, right? Like, this is not Priya, this is Parvati. So Parvati sees all of this, and she wakes up Lord Shiva from his meditation, and she tells him everything. Uh, like she tells him everything, and then she goes and she reveals herself to this attacker, or to this person who attacked Priya. And Shiva, after finding out whatever has happened to Priya, he is obviously very, very angry, and the whole world is in turmoil. And he vows that humans will pay for what they did to Parvati, because Parvati had incarnated herself as Priya, right? And then he calls the assembly of gods, and he curses the human race, saying that they will never be able to procreate, which means they will never bear children. Now you can see how scary that can be for the humankind, because the procreation is the natural process. That is how we keep the universe going. And the other gods, they try to see reason. They try to reason with him that, why punish an entire race for the crime of few people. It's not fair that every human being is being punished for something that only a few people have committed. So Parvati expresses the woman's point of view, saying that by denying them motherhood, Shiva would be punishing them for no fault of theirs. So then Parvati also tells Shiva that the why are you punishing women when women are the ones who are victims? Why are women being punished with this punishment of not being able to procreate? Because at the end of the day, motherhood is something that a lot of women hold close to their hearts. So why are they being punished? The observation is that rape is an act of violence and domination. It cannot be opposed with more of the same. So you can't fight rape, or this whole concept that is obviously an act of violence and an act to assert power, an act to establish your power, showing with a counteract of violence and power. Uh, so then Parvati is trying to reason with her husband, right? That this is not the punishment that you should be given. Like, you should be giving. And then she prays to Kali, and she tells Kali that, please like, reason with Shiva, appeal to Shiva, and let the human race live. So all of this happens, and then the next scene shifts to Priya, and she has nowhere to go. She has been living in a jungle, and suddenly a tiger appears in front of her, and she is afraid, and she climbs on a tree. But it is goddess Parvati. Now we all know that goddess Parvati has a tiger, right? So Parvati appears and tells her that she has chosen her because she has the courage and to persevere and overcome fear. Now, this, like I said, obviously it is about Priya overcoming fear and fighting for justice. And she gives a mantra. Then a collage of women in various roles now emerges, showing them marching with Gandhi, casting their ballots, picking up cudgels to fight. The next picture is of Priya looking straight at the tiger without any fear. She realizes that the tiger fears her as much as she fears him. She sees her own courage being reflected in the tiger's eyes, and she understands the amount of power that women have. So all these different instances, where women have marched with Gandhi for freedom, they have voted, they have fought. So all these women, they have so much power, and that is what Parvati makes Priya realize, that she is she should be proud of who she is, she because she has the courage to fight and overcome this fear that people have tried to kill, people have tried to destroy. So then she comes back to the village from the jungle, and everyone is afraid of her because obviously she was staying in the jungle, so she is disheveled. And they all plead her to not punish them because they are not scared of her. She is ferocious. She is as scary as the beast living in the jungle because she has figured out her courage. She has found the strength to speak up for herself. And she chants her mantra and tells them that there is still hope. If they speak without shame and stand with her, then it is possible to bring about change that they all want to see. She tells them that she is not divine any more than they are, but there is a part of the divine in all of them. So then she tells them she's not here to harm anyone, but she is here to say that everyone should stand together and fight for the change they want to see. And they should, only then there would be hope. It's not that Priya is a supernatural being who, just because Parvati appeared to her, she's supernatural or something. She is as human as the rest of them, but we all have the divine, or we all have the power to bring good changes. And it's just that we should have the will to fight, we should have the courage to fight, and we should not let the people who harm us, let the people who wrong us get away with it, or be scared of them. We should fight back. So this is what she tries to convey. And uh, and this is basically the main story of Priya Shakti. So, like I said, Priya Shakti is a graphic novel, which is the first part, and there are other parts of this series. And this is mainly about rape and how rape has been tabooed or ostracized. And as much as it should be, it shouldn't be on the women who get raped, because it is not the women's fault. It is not our fault that we are viewed in a particular way, or men who are bad, who are wrong, do this to us. Our clothes, or the way we talk, the way we carry ourselves, or what part of the day we are outside, whether it's late at night, whether it's early at morning, should not be the reason why we are being harmed, should not be the reason why we are being attacked. Uh, and that is what this story tries to say, and that is what we all should learn. Uh, as no man, obviously men also do feel scared and insecure, and I'm not saying that that is not true. Even men are afraid to go out alone at night, for a lot of things. There could be robbers, there could be they could rob you, you could be mugged. A lot of things can also happen to men. I'm not saying they don't happen, but the ratio, or the amount that each and every woman has felt unsafe going out at night or coming back home late. Every woman tries to cover themselves when they're coming back, and these things should not be a concern. We should be able to do what we want to do. Men can wear whatever they want to wear. Nobody does anything to them, right? So this is what the story tries to tell you. So yeah, this is the last reading that you had. If any of you get a hold of this comic book, you can read it. Maybe you can use the augmented reality app to actually experience some of the sound effects, some of the animations, and you will enjoy it. So yeah, this is the last unit and the last suggested reading that you had. Now I will just briefly discuss the dialogue that Usha asked me to. I'll just write a little. 1 minute. Okay. So the dialogue topic that was given to you between the patient and the pharmacist. So say you start your dialogue. Uh, so you can see how the pattern of the dialogue is going. So I have written three sets already. I have written three sets. You have to write. So these are three. Like you can see patient, pharmacist, patient, pharmacist, patient, pharmacist. You have to write two more, which means five sets. So this is how you will write your dialogue. And you can see that both of them are having a conversation. Both of them are saying things. It's not just a one-sided conversation. Keep that in mind. So yeah, you can take a screenshot of this for an example if you want. Okay, so next class is The next class is the last class. And if you have any doubts from everything that we have discussed, please ask me. I will be discussing the FIR and Amalkanti because people had asked. So I will be revising those, and I will be revising the a question paper in general. We have covered everything that can come for your exam. There are question papers at the end of your book, so you can practice those. I've constantly been asking you to practice. I don't know if you have been doing, but if you do it, it's for your own good. So once you practice those, you will have an idea of how the question paper for the exam will look like. That's A. And yeah, if you have any questions to ask me now, you can, because I'm done with today's lecture. So you can ask me any questions if you want. Okay, so I guess none of you have any questions. Then I'll meet you in the next class, which is the last class. And you can ask me your questions in that class, or we'll just discuss. I'll revise everything and done. Have a good week, everyone. Good afternoon, and I'll see you next Friday. Take care.